Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on Happy RC Flyer here on YouTube. Today we have another episode of Tools and Tips Tuesday for you, and today we have a tip. It's how to set up throttle cut on your Spectrum radio. Of course, today we'll be demonstrating on the Spectrum NX10, but this will work for any of the Spectrum lineup, so like the NX, the IX, the DX. And once you learn how to configure throttle cut on your radio, hopefully after you get done with this video, you'll be able to understand and maybe even be able to set it up on other brands as well. So there's probably some other brands that are very similar, and once you learn how to configure it to a switch, you might find it easier to set up in whichever brand radio you have, maybe just not the NX10. So that's the goal anyway. We'll be demonstrating on the E-Flite UMX Radian. This has been a really fun little plane. This is not a plane for a windy day, and we found that it's a little windy today to fly. I was hoping to catch some thermals because it's nice and warm, but the wind picked up a little bit. As you can tell, it's kind of floating around here trying to hang on to it, keep it from flying away. So it ended up not being a great day to fly it, but I thought it'd be a great day to share a tip with you on how to set up the throttle cut. So we'll be demonstrating on this plane. If you haven't seen this plane fly, go over and check out the review video. It's one of the first videos I posted on the channel, and actually played a little bit of cornhole with this in the one clip, so maybe you'll see that. But anyway, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. Subscribing helps the channel grow, and I'm interested in helping the hobby grow. So if you find these videos helpful and encouraging, and would encourage you to get into RC or fly more or drive more, boat more, whatever it is, then please subscribe, help grow the channel that way. Like the content. If you like it at the end of the video, hit the big thumbs up button, and share it with a friend that you think might enjoy it. Drop a comment or a question if you have one, and hopefully these videos will help you to become more familiar with RC and make life a little bit easier for you. Anyway, without further ado, as we mentioned, we're going to demonstrate this on the NX10 radio, and we'll show you how to get that set up. Let's see if I can get this where you can be able to see the controller. Hey, real quick before we go any further, I did mention a teaser in the short clip. I don't know if you saw it, but I wanted to mention a quick story just to encourage you guys to set up your throttle cuts. I'm sure everybody in the RC community, if you've been in the hobby for very long, you've probably got some stories, and I've got a number of stories. I personally have not been cut due to a throttle kicking on or anything like that. The only time I was cut by a propeller was a little plastic, I think it was a GWS or a Aero screw propeller that needed the little edge sanded down. It was pretty sharp, and I was messing around with it. I don't even think it was connected to anything, and I accidentally cut myself, just kind of like a paper cut, and it wasn't too bad. Been very blessed, very fortunate, but I've also been very careful. But the throttle cut's so easy to kick on. Anyway, the real quick story was at the airfield flying with some friends, buddies of mine, in the last several days, and one of my friends was flying a turbine, and I was up on the flight line with him, being a spotter, and he landed, and another guy was flying, one of my other friends was flying electric aircrafts, like a Timber X or a Tundra or one of those planes. Anyway, we were standing there kind of admiring his F-22, and then all of a sudden we heard, you know that sound when the ESC or the motor is going bad, and it sounds like the motor's kind of jumping back and forth? It was kind of that sound. And I thought, what is that? So I turned around and looked, and I saw my friend, and he kind of put the airplane away from him, and then he reached and grabbed for his transmitter and put the stick down, so I couldn't tell exactly what was going on, but I figured he got bit by the prop. But he didn't seem to say anything. He didn't holler or anything, so I figured he was fine. He walked on back to where his flight stand was. And then a little bit later, him and another friend were going after the first aid kit that we keep there at the airfield, and he had blood everywhere, and ended up slicing the kind of the tender part of his arm, on the inside of his arm, pretty good, a nice gash about like that. He didn't think he needed stitches. I advised him to see a doctor, but he probably won't. Some people are tough and don't want to go to the hospital, that type of thing. But anyway, all that to say that could have all been avoided. From my perspective, I think it could have been avoided by setting up throttle cut. So some airfields, this one I'm actually at today, has throttle cut is mentioned in their rules, the rules for their club, and I'll put it up here in the corner of the video. But some clubs will actually make a point to mention that, hey, it is a safety issue, and you do need to make sure that your throttle cut is set up. You need to make sure that your aircraft is only powered on when it's out in the flying area in case it would happen to kick on. You can have really good practices, you can have really good intentions, and I don't think accidents, I don't know, I guess accidents, you can be more accident prone if you're not careful, if you're not practicing safety. But accident by definition is something that accidentally happens. And sometimes it might be your fault and sometimes it's not. It's like calibrating an ESC or buying an aircraft for the first time. It's always important to take the propeller off so you don't get struck by it. And telling you, the hobby can be really dangerous if you're not careful, but if you practice some safety precautions and set up throttle cut on all your models, and it just makes the hobby all that more enjoyable and less of a headache, more fun, less stress. So that's the name of the game. But anyway, hopefully you enjoy the rest of the video, and let's get it set up to where you'll be able to see how to program throttle cut on your Spectrum radio. Hey guys, just a quick word of warning and kind of a disclaimer before we go any further. You'll see that I have my transmitter bound up to my model already, and I do have a battery connected to my model, but preferably you do not want to do that. You don't need your transmitter connected to your model or your model powered up in order to set up throttle cut. I'm just going to be doing that for the ease of convenience in filming this, and also because I have a UMX radian, so it's not very dangerous, and I do have it kind of wedged in the crack of this little picnic table. So you'll see if I do throttle up, it's not going to go anywhere. It's kind of wedged in there because I had the wind kept blowing it over. So just keep that in mind. It looks like it's just sitting on the table. It's powered up, of course, but don't do what I do. Just do what I say. It's the best way to put it. Anyway, before we get much into this, I did change the contrasting on this transmitter, so you should be able to see it a little bit easier. Hopefully that helps. I know we've had some issues with that in the past. This is the function roller dial. I'm going to press in on this. It's going to bring up the menu function list. The third one down is going to be throttle cut. I'm going to press the dial again to select throttle cut. The only option there is switch, to put throttle cut on a switch, and so I'm going to select that again. Once it's selected, you can roll the dial, the function dial, and toggle through all the different options that you can see, all sorts of buttons and things to activate throttle cut. What I prefer to do, I just find it easiest and most simple, is once you have it selected and it's highlighted, then just toggle the switch, and I'm going to put it on my right switch in the back. So as I toggle this, you'll see that it automatically selects switch H, and so once H is selected, then you just press in on the function dial again, and that selects it. It brings up this option, which gives you the option to adjust which position, throttle cut position, you want it on, and you're just going to leave it as default. So I'll leave it on this screen for a little bit so you can see what the default positions are, but you don't need to adjust anything. Here would be if you only wanted throttle cut to activate if the throttle is in the low position. We don't want that because we want it to disable the throttle regardless of what position the throttle is in. So we don't want any delay on it. We don't want any low position required. We want it to be at minus 100%, and you'll see that the one position on the switch is highlighted and 0 is not highlighted. In other words, in the down position, it's going to be throttle activated, and when we put it up to the up position, you can see that little tiny white dot at the bottom of the highlighted box. That shows which position the switch is in currently. So when we put the switch up in position 1, we want it to be disabling the throttle. So that's all default. You shouldn't have to adjust any of that, but in case your options get kind of messed up by tinkering with it, that's what it should be as default. Then we're going to scroll back out of it, and we're going to scroll back up to the main screen, and then there we are. And you can see that in the down position, our throttle works. I'll get this prop so it doesn't catch on the table, and our throttle works. But then as soon as we hit the throttle cut, it turns the throttle off. So this begins to disable and enable the throttle. And while you might not think it's a big deal for a small model like this UMX plane that just has really flimsy plastic propellers, it can be very dangerous, and it's just a really good habit to set that up. Hopefully you got the idea of it, and hopefully that wasn't too fast. If you didn't have time to catch on to everything, feel free to pause the video and go back and watch that. I think there's even options in playback that you can put on slower speed. so you'll be able to see the menu options a little bit easier. Hopefully I went slow enough for you guys, but you should be able to get the idea with that, and hopefully that you find that helpful. Really encourage you to take the time to set up throttle cut. As we mentioned already, with the it's just something that can happen so easily, and something that can happen to the best of you. You can have a good habit, but all it takes is one bump and your throttle will be a full blast unless you have that throttle cut enabled. So once that throttle cut's enabled, disables your throttle stick, so you don't have to worry about bumping it. I hook mine onto my lanyard quite a bit, and if you have it hooked onto your lanyard and you take your hands off your radio, it's hanging by the lanyard, it can spin around and bump the throttle so easily. So it's really important to do that, as I mentioned already, the one friend of mine getting cut a few days ago. But anyway, hopefully you find that helpful. Like the video if you like the content. Share some ideas, comments, or questions in the comment section. If you guys have ideas on future video tips and tools ideas, you have a tool that you like or a tip that you think might be helpful, or a question that you have about how to set something up. I definitely don't have all the answers. I enjoy flying as opposed to sitting around and programming, and so that's why I make these videos. If I take the time to explain them, then hopefully it won't take you as much time to find the answers, and you'll be able to get in the air and spend more time RCing instead of programming and stuff. So hopefully you found that helpful. Drop a comment, question, like the video if you liked it, share it with a friend you think might enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already. And this concludes this episode of Tools and Tips Tuesday. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.